Jim, it's that time. That's right.
It is.
Before we start the show, that's right, we have, a new patron, the one, the only, coming to the stage. It's Candy. No, it's Randy. Randall Black. Where did he go? There we go. 3 people. There he is. The one and only Randall Black. Why is that? Well, first of all, the new podcast is called Shooting It Straight. Randy, where can people find that?
shootingitstraightpodcast.com.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about it.
Shooting It Straight is a vehicle for my very good friend, close friend, Jim Clayton, who's a world-renowned basketball coach. This is his vehicle to take the things he's done on the basketball court, teaching the game, and applying those skills to life.
All right. Excellent. And when does it, because it's right now, if you go over to the website again, shootingitstraightpodcast.com, you will see where it's coming very soon. And when is that coming soon?
That will be Tuesday on July 1st. We're going to launch with the first episode. Turned out pretty good. We're going to spend some time talking to each other about why we're doing it.
Excellent. Well, in just a second, we're going to hear the trailer. But what we're going to hear right now is me look up at the calendar and say, hey, ask the podcast coach for July 28th, 2025.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music that means it is Saturday morning. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, and the switcher's not working today. And joining me right over there is the one and only Jim Cullison from TheAverageGuy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Happy 20th anniversary of iTunes.
Yeah.
Was this last week? Yeah. 20 years. We are old people.
I remember that. That's the only time I've ever seen hockey stick growth. And they were like, and all of a sudden it just went whoosh. And I was like, holy crap, what's going on? So, yeah, as much as, sometimes people give Apple crap and, it's kind of funny that they just added some things to their app that are in other, apps already. But without Apple, I mean, that was a huge boost back in the day. So to that, we should probably toast them, don't you think, my friend?
I think so.
So grab whatever you're drinking, which in this case for Jim is, of course, some a little coffee pour. And that coffee pour is brought to you by my good friend Mark, right there over at podcastbranding.co. Because you got to remember, they are going to see you before they hear you. And Mark has made a lot of my artwork. Whether it's Ask the Podcast Coach or School of Podcasting, Podcast Rodeo Show, all those fun-filled things, they are all got the fingerprint of Mark over them. Podcast Hot Seat is another one. And you got to remember, they're going to see you before they hear you. And you want to stop the scroll. And one of the ways you can stop the scroll is by having great podcast artwork. And the beautiful thing that you're not going to get with anybody else, and, well, maybe occasionally, but I doubt it, Mark's a podcaster, so you don't have to do that whole thing about, well, it's kind of like a radio show. No, so whether it's a PDF, podcast artwork, a full-blown website, check out congressionaldish.com if you want to see his handiwork there, or just go to podcastbranding.co and say, hey, Dave and Jim sent me. I need to look good. I need to ramp up my brand. And podcastbranding.co. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it, buddy.
And of course, big thanks to our good friend Dan Lefebvre over there, based on a true story podcast.com. Went back into the archives. Actually, my wife has been listening to Tom Selleck's audiobook, his biography. He was supposed to be the Indiana Jones. They had originally picked him. And he couldn't get out of his contract with CBS for Magnum PI, and it became Harrison Ford. Dan talks about, I don't think he talks about that. Maybe he does. You have to check it out. Go back to a prior series on Indiana Jones. It's available out there. Based on a True Story podcast at basedonatruestorypodcast.com. And Dan, thanks for your sponsorship.
Excellent. And we're going to bring Randy back up. I thought we'd have some fun. Just You know me, I'm all about test. So
it's fun.
We're going to play Randy's, I always want to say promo. That's very 2005 of me. It's a trailer now. So here it is, Shooting It Straight podcast trailer.
Bam, son! Hey, everybody, I'm Jim Clayton.
And I'm Randy Black, and this is Shooting It Straight.
This show's all about the lessons I've learned from years on the court at Sports City U and how they apply to life off the hardwood with talking discipline, faith, motivation, and bringing the heat with a whole lot of bam along the way.
Each week, we dive into real stories that inspire, challenge, and uplift. And sometimes we bring along guests who've lived it, learned it, and kept shooting it straight.
No fluff, no filters, just real talk with heart.
So if you're ready for a full court perspective, life lessons, and a fresh shot of encouragement,
subscribe now and join us at shootingitstraightpodcast.com. That's shootingitstraightpodcast.com, where we live by 3 words: believe, achieve, motivate. Bam, son, and keep shooting it straight.
So do you have the t-shirts ready that say, bam, son?
he has been selling them for over 15 years.
I bet, yeah.
It became his, like, he would always say bam, and he kind of got it from Emeril Lagasse, because Emeril would do his seasoning and say bam. And he picked up on it, and he's like, what's that mean? And we talk about that that's one of the things we talk.
So is that me or you guys? Okay. I'm back.
Of how he developed that. And then he added the son because of another guy he knew that was a coach. And he would always say, you weren't guarding him, son. You let him by, son.
There you
so
go.
he stuck that on, and it's become his catchphrase. He actually has a logo that says BAM, and Jim is known because he has this big, huge, handlebar mustache.
Nice.
So that is incorporated into the logo. But Jim is a good friend. We taught together at one of the local high schools here. Got to be really good friends. He's just a good guy.
All right. So Jim, what is the show about?
It's a motivation show for sure. I mean, you guys did a nice job of getting the name of the show in there several times, which was good. I might have mentioned his name once more, maybe twice. Like I might have mentioned Jim's name at the end just to get that name recognition back in there again. It's really clear what it is. It's clear who he is and what he's done and what you guys are going to talk about. I'm going to come for motivation and life lessons. And I think it's a well put together trailer. I like it.
Yeah. The only thing that I didn't know who he was, and I heard it this time because he said lessons I've learned on the court. And the first time that went through, I must have went over my head or whatever. And I was like, what are they talking about?
Well, the music's a little loud.
The music is a little loud.
So yeah, maybe where you missed it. Maybe
when he says something about something with the talk and from the heart, I knew what he was saying, but I couldn't hear it. I thought the music was just a pinch too loud. But other than that, yeah, it's coming out Tuesday.
Yep.
All right. Excellent.
We're launching on Tuesday. He's been sending me back channel stuff for several years trying to get something started, and he finally just said, I'm ready, let's go. So we sat down. We spent several nights sitting down running through things. I said, I gave him homework the first night and said, if you can't come up with 20 topics, we're not going any further till you can.
There you go.
And when I walked back in the next week, he had 20 topics. He had 10 or 12 different people that he has connections with to be guests lined up, ready to go.
All right.
He's a Nike skills certified coach. So he actually works with Nike. He's a John Maxwell certified leadership coach.
Nice.
Jim he founded the first private lesson basketball academy in the United States in 1992, 93.
Wow. Okay.
And he knows Michael Jordan. He's a pretty well-known man in his space.
So is the goal?
He doesn't have the skills to get this going. That's why he's called me.
There you go. So is the goal to get more people to his basketball camp, or like how are we going to measure our success?
He is looking to build upon a course and things that he's building for his coaching strategies to help other people prepare to do his coaching. He'll be 70 pretty soon. He's dealing with some health issues. He said, I think he just finished his fourth round of chemotherapy.
Oh, dang. All right.
Yeah. He's had colon cancer, and rather than going in and removing part of the colon where the cancer was first, they decided to do the chemotherapy, and it's just come back. And he's had it spread to a couple other places. So this is kind of his way of getting his legacy out there, making sure that it's documented, it's recorded. And I've already told him, I said, no matter what happens with this, I'm going to make sure this stays out there, that this is going to be there for you to carry on that legacy, for your children to be happy, you're proud of, your grandchildren to be proud of, and for people to remember Jim Clayton.
Very cool. And again, the website, shootingstraightpodcast.com. Randy, thanks for being an awesome supporter. Really appreciate it, my friend.
No problem. Love you guys.
All right.
Great to see you, Randy.
Thanks,
Good luck.
man.
Keep us posted.
And next up, I think I can just do that. There he is, the one and only, from aroundthelayout.com. Ray, what's going on, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dave?
Good.
And Jim? Don't forget Jim. Jim's over there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. I can sit back. It's fine.
And Jim, tell me what you had for breakfast.
I had some cereal. Is my audio?
Somebody said it wasn't loud enough. According to my meter, you're fine. So
okay, we'll keep going. It's fine.
Cool.
It's fine.
Ray, what can we help you with?
So I'm still within my 24-hour period where I've promised myself not to take any action on any item for at least 24 hours and think about it.
Good
right?
move,
So
by the way.
So I'm very, very early into that 24-hour period, but so you obviously have been on School of Podcasting and talked with you about my passion for marketing partners. This morning, I fired up Facebook and I'm looking at the Friends of Around the Layout podcast group, which we've grown to a community of about 1,600 people. And the first thing I see is another model railroad shop who is not a marketing partner, and I have a model railroad shop that is, posted an ad for their shop. I understand, why wouldn't you want to reach my 1,600 people that I've built a community, but I do take pride that, it was the work of the podcast that built that community.
Right.
So I'm still trying to think this whole process out of you don't want to look like a jerk. And that's why 24 hours, I'm not going to go in and just delete the post, but I'm also thinking about the controls of this. If there needs to be controls, how to take this, how to set some kind of regulation so that the group doesn't turn into just a revolving billboard of people. And especially those who haven't partnered with me on the marketing side. And try to balance all of that out so it still becomes a community where people can go to for the stuff they go to a community for, which is tips, tricks, advice,
right.
News in the hobby, without being, basically sold every time they scroll, because I can do that just right on my feed anyway. I can be sold all day long if I just keep scrolling. I want the community to be something a little different. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this as I'm working through this, period of thought. Yeah.
Is there any, like in your rules for the group, is there any kind of no self-promotion or, Rich says, make sure there's no ads in the group kind of rules? Just set it up that way. I know, at the School of Podcasting, there's a thing where when you launch, you can or there's a feedback corner. And that's fine. I've seen so many podcasts, especially podcast groups, where it's hey, episode 22 is out. Hey, here's them. And it's just nothing but pitch. There's nothing in there, but please listen to my show. And so on one hand, I want to offer feedback, and I want that place for that. But it's one of those where, and luckily it's almost too much the other way. People don't ask for feedback, but I would put something in the rules. That way, when people go, well, what the heck are you jerking? Go, oh, it's in the rules. You agree to those when you signed up. So is there anything like that in your rules?
I'll have to check my rules to see exactly what it is. And I guess I'm not 100% anti-ad. I'm anti-spamming or anti-hammering. And in some ways I would like for a marketing partner to still have access to the group to be able to advertise on a not necessarily infrequent, but on occasion, right? Not every day, not every. Right. So, I mean, there could be some potential. I'm probably missing a few pieces, and I'm starting to, it's starting to rear its ugly head of some handshake agreements versus having some written stuff out. And maybe I got to start moving towards a little formality, but of how many times a marketing partner can post. And it's kind of hard to have two compartments. One is you're not a marketing partner, so no ads. If you're a marketing partner, you can do it so much. But
right.
On the other hand, the reason why that community exists, now this is not an ego thing, it's just the truth is the podcast is the reason why that community exists. And there are inherent costs to that podcast, and the marketing partners help pay for that. Somebody who comes into that community and goes, oh, look at this, I do this, and this, and try to make money. And it's like, you're kind of, advertising in the lobby of my store.
Yeah, that's not cool. I mean, I am part of many different podcast groups that are technically my competition, and I never say a peep unless I'm asked to like chime in on something. Like David Hooper's in the School of Podcasting. I'm in his group. I've done other things like that, and that to me that's just not cool. Now, did he just join, this new person?
No, he's been in for some time. He's actually been on the show. But he has never been. We've never had a marketing partner relationship. He just appeared on the show once.
Yeah.
And again, if it was like an accidental or answering a question like, hey, I'm looking for an Athearn Genesis SD60. And I know exactly what that is, Dave.
I do. I have two of those.
And if he said, hey, I know, hey, I've got 3 in my store, give me a call. Hey, that's cool. You're helping somebody.
Yeah.
Right. But if it's just blatant, hey, shop at Joe's Trains, which is not the name of this sponsor or this person, by the way. That I think that's the difference. And so just trying to, it's pulling me in directions. That's why the 24-hour thing is always the other. I'm going to go through waves of thought.
Yeah. There are a couple things you could think about doing. Is one, just if it's like strike one, okay, let's see if they do this again tomorrow or in a month or whatever. And if it becomes a problem, then reach out and go, hey. And also, you could probably do this, like let it go, because I'm assuming there's more things coming in your group. And when it kind of gets off the front page, then you go in and politely delete it so nobody notices. I know, and I'm honest, this will fit, but I used to get really, really upset when I was in a band because the singer and the bass player would go out and smoke pot, and we would inevitably go on 5 minutes late. And I'm like, look, we're paid to play 9 to 1. Can we not start at 9:05 and 9:10? And then it dawned on me one day, because I was really getting like just bent out of shape. This is unprofessional, blah, blah, blah. And then it dawned on me, the bar owner didn't care. And so it wasn't really a problem. So why am I getting like, when they're upset, then I should get upset and go, guys, come on. Can we puff a little faster out there or something? I don't know. But so if this isn't, it may be a case, this guy crossed the line. But is it really like when he does it again, then you're like, okay, hold on. So if you're worried about, is the worry you just don't want to look like a jerk?
Well, I guess, I think that the worry is a couple things. I'm thinking ahead of my listeners. I like to think that I'm starting to know my listener a little bit more, and I know they don't want to be sold to at every turn. The other thing is I want to get ahead of my current marketing partners and nip it in the bud, because I want to avoid the awkward conversation of them ever coming to me saying, listen, Ray, I pay you to advertise on your show, and you're letting Joe's Trains do the same thing I'm paying for. Like I'm trying to think ahead, and maybe it's not a problem. Maybe they look at it and they go, well, I don't care, do whatever. Maybe they feel like that, but the next guy might not. And why not? Again, it's why I'm probably a little bit, I'm trying to be ahead of that curve.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, for me, what you just said is if you pull that guy's post, just say, look, here's why. And I don't think there's anything unreasonable about that. Hey, I have people that pay me to get in front of my audience, and I'd be happy to sign you up as a a marketing partner. And you know, everything you just said, I'm like, here's why I'm doing that. Nothing against you, and you know, blah blah blah. You might get a sponsor out of it. I don't know, Jim. You look like you were getting ready to say something.
Yeah, Ray. Do you sell your Facebook? Is that part of the deal for your sponsors? Is that the Facebook group is exclusive?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's fine. If it's not. You know.
Yeah.
So there's
and maybe it should. I don't know. And this is where probably the second project comes up, which is I probably need to sit and talk with somebody who's done kind of this marketing advertising side of either radio or podcasting, and like kind of get their, you know, like, how do you approach this? Because going back to what Dave was saying, I think that's exactly the approach I'm thinking of early on, which is actually not to pull his post, but to say, hey, Lauren, appreciate you know, acknowledging our group and, you know, putting stuff up in the future. Here's a great way that we could work together, but then have the information and have those things that you just talked about, Jim, figured out already. So that when I approach him, I can say, hey, here's all the information. Here are the many ways that you could partner. We could partner together. Or if you don't see something on the sheet that works for you, let's talk and let's see if we can make something work. But there's got to be a give and take. And you know, it's not, and it may not even be a financial transaction. I have a marketing partner who simply, I've run their ad once a month, and they have a stamp that says Around the Layout Podcast on it with our address, and they stamp it on all their outbound shipments. They just take the stamp and they hit the box with it. So it's got a logo going out on the envelope or boxes. You know, if it was something like that, okay, we're working together. They put an ad up every once in a while and they're stamping boxes and we're both working together. I think I got to find somebody that, you know, can really help me on that marketing side. Put that all together and think all these programs out that would make sense, and then document it and probably put some stuff in writing that makes it a little more formalized.
Yeah, listen, you can get all the writing that you want, and you're still gonna have some moments that get kind of sticky, and it's just gonna come down to managing. Right, it's gonna come down to managing it. I have to do this. I had to do this a couple of years ago. The groups grew to a pretty good size that I have to manage, and then the ads they always seem to follow a very similar pattern. Then everybody starts advertising in them their stuff, and it starts innocently, and then then it starts the ones that figure out, ooh, there's some people here, just start hammering it. And we set rules, they still break them, and I just heavy-handedly just started deleting them. I wasn't even giving explanations. I'm like, if you're noticing this, because we also get a lot of folks, because they're public, they're open. I mean, ours are you know, you still have to get approved to get in, but they're still pretty open. They'll just spray and pray. They'll come by, drop their in their AI created ad, and then they'll do it daily. And even with our partners, I ask, hey, make a single post, and then if you have updates, update that post. It's actually better for you, for your analytics things in the group, if you just keep updating the posts that you have, that you created, instead of creating brand new ones all the time. Right. And so it took me a couple months, I'm going to say 6 months maybe, to really, I mean, I gave it a severe haircut and said, no ads, no more ads. Right. That the group really slowed down. It scared me for a second. I was like, ooh, maybe I've driven everybody away. And then it like pruning in the fall, in the spring, you know, started seeing and then from there I could kind of curate it, right? I could start doing the work that it kind of takes to curate it. So you may think about giving it a healthy haircut, just blocking things that you don't like. You're going to, if they ask, say, you know what, this isn't that kind of group. We're not doing these kinds of things. It doesn't have to be in the rules. It's helpful if it is, but you run the thing. Yeah. It doesn't have to be in the rules. Just say, no, I didn't like it. I didn't. Well, can you tell me? No. Well, you know, if you want to have a partnership with me and pay for this, we can talk about it, right? Type deal. So don't be so worried about the group. By the way, a lot of those folks in there don't even see these things. So don't get too worried about that.
Oh, man.
But if it's making you uncomfortable, certainly address it.
Yeah, I will chime in on what Ralph is saying. Facebook groups suck. I noticed.
Yeah, they can. I mean, Facebook's terrible. The group is we run some pretty effective groups in Facebook,
but
and I've tried leaving it, and my audience rebelled. They were like, if you leave, we're like, we don't want another place to go. We don't want another. I mean, I couldn't move my group unless I moved it into an existing Gallup account. If I said, hey, I'm creating a circle group and now you have to have a new ID, the pitchforks and torches in the parking lot, shiv my, flatten all four of my tires on my car. So I couldn't move my groups unless it's something they already signed into.
Yeah, Mark has 117,000 people in his group, and he says we have to approve each post, not comments though.
Yeah,
they keep it, but that would.
I do approve posts. I have 20,000, and I do approve, and it's me, and I approve every single one of them.
Here's a fun idea. Rich Graham says I'm in a group of 16,000 people. They sell the group banner to the sponsors monthly, as well as a featured post. Interesting idea. Uncle Marv says, tell them they need to pay to market, just like the other people. And then he says, oh, wait, Dave just said this. Yeah. Also, Chrissy over at Creating Great Grooming Dogs. It says, would you be able to set up a post each month for that sort of promotion? Yeah, you can make it part of the deal. Like, hey, when you become a marketing partner, not only are you on the show, but if it could be part of the package. It's this much to be featured on the show. If you go to the next higher level, you can post once a month into the group. That might be something to think about.
Ray, be brutal on those ones you don't want. just give them the axe. Don't feel bad about it. Like if it's not aligning to what you want that group to be and where it's going, and like you said, if you feel for a second like it's disingenuous or they're selling in your store or like, just delete. Just delete the thing.
Jeff C wants to know, is your Facebook group free, Jim?
Well, it's on Facebook. It's not, they're part of our community. I approve them to be in the groups, right? So, but they don't pay directly for those groups.
Yeah. And then Steve Stewart, king of all the editors. I had numerous people say the only reason they go to Facebook is his group. The Steve, of course, Podcast Editors Academy. He keeps that thing on target. When somebody goes and goes, what's the best microphone? It's like, nope, sorry, that's not, And you only have to do that once. When I was a teacher, I would put a big timer on the wall and 15 minutes and count it down. I said, when you come in late and say, hey, can you get me caught up? The answer is no. And somebody would come in and say, hey, I'm sorry. And I'd be like, that's all right. Just watch. I'll get you caught up on the next, like you can jump in at the next lesson, but you missed it. And consequently, the second and third break of the day, nobody was late coming back. They're like, oh, he's actually serious. So
set the expectations, be aggressive with the expectations. You can always walk them back. But, to your point, man, my group, the ads, I had people complaining, regular group members complaining and leaving because like all these are ads. I'm getting, I had somebody trying to post an ad every day. Like,
and to that
slight little changes, no.
And to that point, Jim, the ones that complain is fine. The ones you worry about that don't complain and leave.
Very true.
Like
Very true.
The complaint gives you an opportunity. The leave is like, now you're just trying to reach out and pull them back in, and good luck doing that.
Well, that's why you got to be aggressive.
That's why I try to be aggressive and ahead of it. And I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're protecting those who aren't speaking is what you're doing when you're being aggressive that way, right? You're protecting those who can't speak up.
And, and we talked about, Ralph saying that, about Facebook groups, but I think I may be in the demographic that maybe on that Facebook group, the Facebook group is the fit, ran a survey, and I share the numbers, but the vast majority of my audience is, well, I'm going to say vast majority, is somewhere between 45 and 75. It doesn't seem like it's the newer, they see Discord and they run for the hills, right? Like they have no idea what Discord is. This is the platform that they've kind of, they've crawled into. Dave's talked about that. The younger group has run away from Facebook when grandma got on. And then, they're still in that bracket that kind of, when Facebook started, they were kind of there, like me. It was kind of there 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been there. So I don't know about moving. So anyway, that's a different topic anyway, but
yeah, it is. That's another
but it's
show.
Yeah, exactly, about, what groups work or what. I'm going to run with this 1,600 people in it. I'm not going to, walk away from 1,600, in a wildly engaged. That survey that I ran, 400 responses to the survey.
That's really good.
There's no way I have 13,300 listeners. So wildly engaged. I just want to protect them and make sure they stay wildly engaged. So appreciate you guys' feedback on all that.
Yeah, right. Thanks for jumping in here, and good luck. Keep us posted on how it goes.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Yeah. And of course, you can jump into the video here by going to askthepodcastcoach.com/question. Hence, it's right above our heads there. So
Ralph makes a good point in chat, is like the risk you run of doing a Facebook group or any of those groups. So we have a LinkedIn group as well. They can be pulled for any reason, anytime. Yeah, that is 100% correct.
Yeah.
You definitely run the risk of losing that. I shouldn't say this out loud, but I sometimes wish they would. And give me,
well, I got kicked out of my group for saying Lunch with Dave starts in 20 minutes, and they said I was spamming, and I'm like, it's my group. And Mark, that I just mentioned, 117,000 people in his Facebook group, was temporarily kicked out this week, and the only reason was you broke the terms of service. And you're like, yeah, but what did I do? You broke the terms, but and luckily he was able to get it back. He appealed and got it back. But I'm like, 117,000 people. I'm like, but he's thinking about it because Jeff makes up a party. He goes, it's hard to move a free Facebook group to another platform, but you'll have better results if you, I forget the name of my own show, Grow Your Community. Yes, growyourcommunityshow.com. And there's an episode there with the late, great Dan Miller talking about how at the time he moved his group to, I think, Mighty Networks. And he said he lost 70% of his group. He goes, but the 30% that showed up wanted to be there. And it was super engaged. And it was, like we have, I think, 2,500 people in our Podpage Facebook group. And when I sent out a post, I looked at it, and where it shows whatever it is, the view or whatever it is, that number there in the bottom right-hand corner, 19, not 1,900, 19.
19 of them, yeah.
And I was like, and it'll say like you have 102, I think I had 120 this week, active members. And I'm just like, and a fun exercise, go into Facebook and click on groups and see how many groups that you have driven by and went, oh, yeah, I'll subscribe to that. And then you never go back, because if it doesn't come up in your feed, you don't see it. And, it's Facebook. They want you to pay so everybody can see it, which, that's their business. It's a tricky thing,
Well, listen, our customers pay a significant amount of money to be certified in this program. And I don't, this is where it's a little bit different. It's not public in the sense that, that being a part of this group or one of the groups, is a benefit of being certified, right? So while they're directly paying, this is not just any Joe off the street joining the group because they like coaching, right? That had to been through our course and be certified and maintain their certification and those kinds of things. So that group takes on a little bit different feel for what it is. That being said, I still run the. I mean, they're people, and they want to. They're creating products they want to sell, and sometimes we let them when they're licensed with us. I allow that to be done when it's a licensed product. Other times, if it's helpful to the community, I let it go. Sometimes it's just spam, and I just delete it, right? And so, you gotta, your mileage may vary on the kind of groups that you run. We don't treat it like it's the only way, right? We've got newsletters. We send them emails. In fact, I spend a good chunk of my time just making sure those emails are good, right? I talked about this a while ago, by the way. If you manage groups and you have email lists, listen up really quick, right? So during the Great Resignation, right, we saw a third of the world change jobs every year is what was happening. So 22, 23, and maybe part of late 21, early 24. Lots of movement in the space, man. I was racing Dave to try and keep up with people changing their email, right? We're not a first tier email change in their head. You know, they think about changing their email at their bank and the thing, you know, their utilities and some of those kinds of things. Your thing, whatever you're doing from a podcast, they don't think, oh, I ought to update my news or my email with them because I've got a newsletter. No, they don't think about that. Sometimes those emails just go stale, they stop being answered, they don't get forwarded, right? So I've spent an enormous time doing that. We're coming up on another cycle of this. I think I'm going to call it the Great Reorganization, where companies now are making decisions on who stays and who goes. And I think you're seeing a lot of turnover in organizations. So if you're in a professional space or you collect a lot of professional emails for whatever, company emails, you may need to be aggressive about making sure you have the most current email address. I think a lot of people are changing jobs at the moment. Some not because they're choosing to.
I'm going to say
this is where it's different than at the Great Resignation, right? I think that everybody chose to. I think in this next round that we're seeing, I don't think this many choices are being made. So I say all that to say, and listen, I'm sorry if you lost your job in the last year with all the things that are going on. But all that being said, if you have a newsletter list, those emails, be aggressive, be aggressive of keeping emails up to date, right? And watch your bounce reports, see what's not making it. Make sure, sometimes I think we send email newsletters and we just hope, and then it's like, well, I'm on to the next thing. No, you're going to get if you're using some kind of service, you're going to get some kind of bounce report back. Make sure you're pulling that in, and then if you can, find those people again. See if you can get an updated email address from them. I think it's worth it. And there's services that do that, and on the all those kinds of things. Just pay attention to your newsletters, email lists right now, and make sure you're not bleeding people who have left.
Yeah,
or changed jobs or whatever.
Well, Jason Bryant from Matt Talk. I tell people not to use their work email because a number of email services at companies block e-commerce purchases too. Yeah. He said, I had a number of people not get my digital preview guide for the NCAA tournament because Selfie is based in Latvia. Yeah. Okay. So Selfie, I can't see. I'm so blind. But anyway, he goes, but that's who facilitated online purchasing. Yeah. So that's always fun. And we just got this news. Holy cow. He says, speaking of joining a Facebook group, you're looking at the newest member. That would be the one and only Jeff C., a new member of the School of Podcasting.
Whoa! Whoa!
How cool is that? So you will be getting a video from me then later today. And then Create Part Podcast. That is better known as Tim. Excited to see Dave at the Empowered Podcasting Conference. I'll talk to you at the Smelly Cat Cafe for a group.
He's going to take
me. Yeah, I really need to talk to Ecamm and go, can we make the comments a little bigger? That, or I just need to clean my glasses, which is probably that. You brought up Apple's 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
And so I thought I would play something. I heard this yesterday on the Podcasting 2.0 show, and there was something that I was like, nobody talks about this. So I'm going to play. This is from a YouTube video called Adam Curry's Daily Source Code 180, Steve Jobs in 2005 at D3. So this is Steve introducing podcasting.
Just if you were to eventually get into selling paid audio stuff.
You could try to sell podcasts, but the whole phenomenon.
Wait, hold on. I got to go back to the beginning. I thought I was at the beginning. Apparently, I'm not. Okay.
Just if you were
no, that is the beginning.
Eventually get into selling paid audio stuff.
You could try to sell podcasts, but the whole phenomenon is so great it's free. Okay. And I think what we're going to see is an advertising-supported model emerge, just like free radio.
Right there, an advertising model like free radio. Okay, great. Let's think about that a second. How's radio doing right now? we're going to set up an ad-free radio thing, just like, blah. And I'm like, now, even before podcasting came along, radio, once they consolidated everything, thank you, Clinton, I think it was, that did that whole thing where you can buy as many radio stations as you want. Great. I was like, maybe it's, because then my buddy John Jamango shared this with me. He said, he's not making this up. Have you ever heard a live read ad interrupted by a dynamic ad? I just did. We interrupt this advertisement for an advertisement. It's getting ridiculous. And I was listening to, I get it, but I'm just here to tell you, they're going to ruin podcasting. Give them another 5-10 years. They're going to ruin podcasting because it's just going to be radio all over again. And I just like, I don't remember Rocky's last name, but she was on the Podcasting 2.0 show. Now, I might have her on the School of Podcasting because she's both, she's worked a lot in the ad space, and she's seen both the buyer and the seller. So she works with podcasters, and she goes, I tell them all the time, don't increase your ad, the number of ads in your show, increase the price, raise the price, because Tom Webster and Brian Barletta just keep proving over and over and over how well podcast advertising works, and yet nobody's holding the line. And I'm like, it's just going to be a race to the bottom because, okay, I want $30 CPM or $40 CPM. Well, yeah, but the guy over here is going to do it for 15. Well, I'm not doing it for 15. Okay, well, he will. Here, take my money. And then, it's just going to be, well, that guy will do it for 10. That guy, that's why you have programmatic ads for $5. And I was just like, but when I heard that, he's like, yeah, it's going to be just like the radio industry. And I was like, yeah, how's the radio industry doing? Now for the record, in some places like Australia, they have a phenomenal radio thing because they don't have the crappy, greedy, weasels that run the radio industry in America, where it's actually, I know. Tell us what you really think, Dave. I know we needed one of these.
You do. Play it.
But it's just one of those where, like, I've heard Josh Liston, who's getting ready to launch a new show about China. It's going to be fun, or Japan. I forget. I should know that. But anyway, Josh is a great guy, and radio over there is completely different. When I was in the UK, man, that's like probably 30, 40 years ago now. It was, completely different. And I'm just like, oh, here, I hope I'm not true. But I do see when I look at, and I'll take a breath here in a second, Jim. When, if you go over at podcastbusinessjournal.com, there's a graph you can see how many people are going from host A to host B, like they're switching from, Libsyn to Captivate or Blueberry to whoever, or, but you can see where people are moving to Spotify. And then I was listening to Todd on the New Media Show. He did a solo show, and he's explaining how Spotify is now saying, if you use our advertising, you can if you have ads and you join their program, only Spotify can sell ads that are heard on Spotify. So if I'm an ad agency and I'm getting, 50% of the money from this ad spend, and now, 30% of your audience is on Spotify, you just lost 30% of your 50%. And so here again, they pull us in, and then they make the wall a little higher and a little higher to where all of a sudden, there's only going to be two options, YouTube and Spotify, and they both suck. And I'm just like, please don't do that. Please, please, please don't do that. But it'll be interesting.
It works, Dave.
Yeah.
The way it works. That's the way it works.
The people with the money.
If I could say to you, Dave, I could get you a share of ear of 75% of the U.S. population at least once a week. Would you think that's pretty good? 75%?
Yeah.
That's radio today. So
yeah.
I mean, I know you're talking, radio's having some difficulty. But they still have a 75% share of ear in the U.S. population at least once a week. Like, you know how many? I mean, that's a lot. That's 250 million people that are listening, 12 and above. Now it's probably smaller than that, but maybe 200 million that are listening to radio. I think, okay, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think our assessment of radio being in trouble is a little premature in some ways. Is that number going to continue to slide down? It does look like it, right? It's been on a downward trend since 2020, but
here's the question. Not so much, I need to rephrase this. Talk to the DJs and see how rich they are.
It's changed. The whole industry has changed. I mean, it's robo industry. I mean, the reason they did what they did is because even in the smaller stations weren't making, I mean, it was tough in small markets, right?
Yeah.
So what do when you have small markets and you're distributed? You consolidate, right? And so when they could consolidate, and there's, I don't know, a dozen radio station owners left, with iHeart being one of the biggest ones, right?
Right.
You consolidate and you streamline, right? Now, certainly share of ear and profitability are two completely different things when we think about radio, right? I mean, they had to consolidate and streamline to kind of make any money. These small, imagine all these small radio stations going into some of these headwinds, these advertising headwinds that we're having now. They'd be just dropping like flies. They would be out. They would not, wouldn't be making it. And the reason DJs aren't getting paid a lot is because there's not a lot of money in it, right? So it's still effective in the sense that there's still a lot of people are listening to it.
And there's not a lot of money because
ads are. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Listen, podcasts are moving this direction, right? This is gonna happen, whether we like it or not. There will be big podcast networks that all consolidate and own the space, like you said, Spotify or YouTube or whatever. That's the nature of the beast when it comes to this kind of stuff. It always cycles down, and then it'll get disrupted again, right? Podcasting disrupted radio, so in a lot of ways, TV disrupted radio. Right. And podcasting may disrupted TV, or maybe, I don't know, it's probably not true, but we're going to see it consolidate, and then there'll be another disruption of some kind, whatever that is. But until we find ways for people to pay for things, advertising is the only way that works. I mean, you don't got to pay for it somehow. And we know people are not willing to pay for value. We got this value for value thing, and some people do it, but that's not the model that most people want to do. They want to just listen. That's what they want to do. They want to pay anything. They just want to listen.
Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity to Podcast. During the apocalypse of Apple's back catalog auto download change, podcasters should have raised their rates because advertisers were satisfied with the return on investment at the time. Yeah, absolutely. To which Steve Stewart.
The way capitalism works.
Yeah,
not
Steve says exactly.
Works,
Steve Stewart did a great job of asking the question that the listener wanted. He had one of the guys that was on, I think it was Steve. I'm like 90% it was Steve. Yeah. And there was two guys on stage at Podcast Movement, and they were like, video is the next thing. And they're like, we have to call video a podcast because the audience calls it a podcast. And Steve said the thing I was screaming into which is why do we have to, can't we just tell the audience, hey, guess what? I don't go I bought the movie Jaws on Amazon so I could watch it. I didn't watch the book. I watched a movie. Why? Because it's a different platform. It's a different delivery method. It's a different, I didn't say, I'm going to sit down tonight and watch the book Jaws. No. It's so don't get me started. But so thank you for that, Steve. Because every time I hear that one, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I realize the audience doesn't care. I'm like, that's fine, but we're trying to preserve our reporting. Dan Lefebvre from basedonatruestorypodcast.com. I wonder what the number of ads are for sports on TV. If you count, on the court. And on the, everything is a logo. I'm surprised they don't have, it superseded on the, they always have the old guy that's been around forever and he's got a little more forehead than the rest of us. Just slap a logo on that. That's a little crazy. Yeah.
Our Husker football team, their touchdowns are sponsored. So they score a touchdown. This touchdown sponsored by like,
oh yeah,
the touchdown is sponsored, right?
Yeah.
You know,
and there's a thing if the Cavs score more than 10 over the thing, it's free tacos. You get a free taco at Jimmy's House of Tacos or whatever. Yeah, there are a lot of ads, and it is getting like even Amazon. Remember when Amazon Prime was just movies, and now it's like, oh, if you value your time, you'll chip in the other $7, so you don't have to sit there and watch me interrupt something, But the other sad thing about sports radio, and this is one of the few things when I make my breakfast, I have the woman in the tube play the sports channel just to hear what everybody's talking about, and it's always kind of stupid, but nonetheless, it's sports ball, so why not? And I'm here to tell you, 90% of their ads are FanDuel and this gambling, and of course at the end they're like, got a gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLING sucks, whatever it is, and I'm like, So, and not only is it an ad, it's an ad to Prime, and that, I think it was 60 Minutes, did an expose on that, on how if you actually stop gambling with insert gambling site right now, they will go, hey, we noticed you haven't placed any bets in a while. Here's $100 to get you back in the game. I'm like, hey, notice you haven't shot heroin in a while. Here, next one's on me. I was like, oh, that's such a horrible, anyway. Yeah. Mark Roenick, by the way, I will be at the Empowered Podcast event down there in North Carolina. It's going to be fun. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Not that I'm not looking forward to podcast movement, but I'm really looking forward to that. I think because I've never been, and I know that type of event. It's smaller, and I get to meet everybody by the time I'm there. But he says you're looking at well over 270 distinct ad messages per hour on TV. 200, and I wonder why I don't watch TV anymore. Wow, that's crazy. That's a lot. He says count the 28 standard TV ads an hour, add the 47 spots break ads per hour, toss on the 16 spoken timeout mentions per game, factor in the 200 plus static logo host, those images. That's just crazy. Yeah, it's interesting. Dan says that there's a lot more backlash about the amount of ads there, but there is, am I reading that wrong again? I believe it's interesting that there's not more backlash about that, the amount of ads there, but there is for podcasts, because podcasts, which is, you're going to run into this. I mean, I saw our numbers take a dip when I started putting one more ad from Buzzsprout ads, and our numbers took a dip, and I'm like, I don't need the $14 that month. Thanks so much. We got enough promotion in the show. But that is true. Maybe because, and it's a little bit like music. Music's been devalued because there's a never ending stream of it. Back when I grew up, back in the, it was, you treasure the album because, well, you're not getting one for a while because that thing's, $12. And so you would listen to it over and over and over. And you'd read the liner notes and you'd listen with headphones and whatever. So it was more valued. Now it's like, if Stryper comes out with a new album, I'll listen to it 3 times and go, yeah, that was really good. And then, oh, look, Snoop Dogg's got an album out and it's on to the next. And it's like, that's why, that and the whole 99 cents. So, yeah.
Unless you had Columbia Records, then.
Oh man, I did the math on that one day and was like, wow, this is really a ripoff. And I'm like,
well, that's what you get. Listen, that's what you get when you don't have advertising, right? I mean, that's that model in order to sell records. Then you've got to dupe the consumer, right? I mean, the next model on this are subscriptions or getting people to pay for things. I mean, what about the shenanigans that go on with subscriptions where you can't figure out how to cancel the thing, or you can sign up online, but you got to call us to cancel, right? Where they put the heavy hand in place. I mean, the alternatives to ads are pretty slim. I mean, the obvious one is get people to pay for it, but we know most people won't pay for this kind of stuff.
Unless you're Joe,
they won't do it.
Joe Budden, which I was the guy. He used to be Spotify exclusive, and then now he's not. This is the guy that complained about his vacation, all that. And I guess he did a screenshot. and he said he was making $900,000. And we don't
that's
know what it
never
is.
sustainable.
Yeah.
You know, all these gamers on YouTube and stuff. I mean, listen, there's always the exception of the one Rogan, right? But
Right.
that's one in a million, literally, right? When we think about people doing it that way. And I think the space only has so much, podcasting ecosystem has only so many slots to support folks like that. We're never going to get into a situation where there's 1,000 Joe Rogans, because it's just not possible. The podcasting, the environment doesn't support that. So I think, I mean, we all complain about ads, but we also all complain about the weather. And,
Right.
it's like, I don't know if there's much we can do about it. It's kind of where things have gone, like Daniel said, there were some key spots in there where if we would have raised prices instead of lowered them, well, that's not the way capitalism works. And someone is always going to be willing to, Dave, you're like, well, I'm going to charge $15 for this spot. There's always someone who will go 14.
Yeah, that's it. That's
And then
it.
you'll go
The race to
13,
the
and they'll
bottom.
go
Yeah.
12, right? And no matter how much we try to hold, by the way, that's called price fixing when we do
Yeah.
those kinds of things, right? No matter what we try to hold, if there's somebody in the market willing to go to the bottom, it's going to go to the bottom. It just is.
Well,
So
you mentioned games. Uncle Marv says, has anyone watched Cornhole on TV? A 9-year-old kid had about 10 sponsors on his shirt. And I'm like, wait, there's professional cornhole? That's amazing.
And pickleball.
Yeah.
Pickleball is out of control, my friend. Where did this come from? Where did pickleball all of a sudden become they're building new pickleball courts in our parks here in Omaha.
Wow.
Bellevue. You're like, really?
Yeah. It's the
really
thing.
Popular. It's really popular.
Jason says the local drive time show back where I grew up doesn't even take calls anymore. They have the sponsor name text line where people text their questions and radio hosts can just do that. Yeah, there was a guy I used to listen to on the ride home, and he was very much, the reason he was popular is because he wasn't like normal radio guys. Like, he would go long, and they'd be like, Mike, you need to take a thing. He's like, I'm busy here. And he'd just go on because he'd be in the middle of something. And then they would have an extra long break. But it was kind of fun because there was that element of like, I don't know what Mike's going to say. And then I downloaded his podcast, and it was 20% of it was missing. And I'm like, wait, where's it's supposed to be an hour. Why is it 40 minutes? And it was like, oh, the other 20 minutes is ads. And I was like, holy cow. Now, this is how much I trust Daniel J. Lewis. This is from a movie called Ready Player One. And he says this clip is all about what we're talking about right now. So let's listen together.
Shareholders won't be happy.
It's not our job to make them happy. It's our job to make them money. But once we launch this little baby, they're gonna flip. We call this Pure O2. This is the first of our planned upgrades. Once we can roll back some of Holiday's ad restrictions, we estimate we can sell up to 80% of an individual's visual field before inducing seizures.
Nice.
Shareholders won't be
80% of everything you see will be an ad. Yes. Very good, Daniel.
I'd already be pretty close.
Yeah.
To that.
Yeah. Mark Farquhar, I'm going to guess, Movies in a Nutshell, says, what's the consensus on putting audio podcasts on YouTube if you don't do video? Is it better than nothing? By this much. But it's
I'd try it.
Yeah.
I would try it, right?
It's free, takes 5 minutes to set up, but I would not expect. And here's the good news is YouTube lets you see a lot of data about your stuff. And so you can see how far people watch/listen, which is the good news. The bad news is when there's no video. Look, I'm not going to feed a vegetarian, a steak. It's the wrong thing for the wrong person. And feeding audio to YouTube is like, ugh, all right, I guess. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll eat it. It's okay. But it's not really what they're looking for. So, no, but it's free.
I would not put audio with a static, like with a static image, like some have done. I would not. I wouldn't waste anybody's time, unless listeners who were like, oh yeah, no, I'll stream it. I'm going to stream it off my phone on YouTube. And if it's there, I'm in my car. And so I'm just kind of how I'm going to listen to it. If I had some listeners say, that's how I'm going to consume it, I'll make a copy for them and push it to YouTube. Why not? But I probably wouldn't do it unless somebody asked for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Uncle Marv says there's a new FTC rule that will make companies fix the subscription issue. It must be as easy to cancel as it was to sign up. I signed up for regional movies. I can go watch as many movies as I want for $20. Boy, it sure was easy to sign up. And I'm feeling a very AOL kind of vibe when I go to like, hey, you know what? I could watch as many movies as I want. And I've done that. And most of the movies are very, like it was okay. And I'm like, but none of them are like, oh, I'm so glad I saw this in a theater. So it's,
I was thinking of you, Dave, when I said that. I was hoping you'd put two and two together, because you and I have talked about that subscription, and that, like, it's hard to get out of it, right? And so, you know, the shenanigans that go on in that space are that's the Columbia Records model. Yep. It was hard to get out of Columbia Records, like, and then they would send you stuff. Oh, if you keep it for a certain length of time, you know. Oh yeah. What I wonder if they made. I'd love to see their numbers from those days. You know,
Rich brings up Sirius Satellite Radio, and I do this on a regular basis. I will sign up. I'll listen to Howard Stern, and after a while, I'm like, no, all right, that's enough, Howard. And then I will go to cancel, and I know they're going to ask me, well, we can give you a discount for the next 3 months. Would that make you stay? No. We can do this? No. And the last time I unsubscribed, I said, look, I know you're going to ask me a bunch of questions. I'm here to tell you, no, just we can skip the script. I'm not getting off the phone until you cancel my subscription. So please don't read me the script. And then the person whose first language was not English read the script, because they don't know how to do anything but the script. And I was,
that's their job.
And I was like, all right, no,
or they get fired.
No, yeah, I get it. But it was just like, oh, all right, you're going to waste 5 minutes of my time so I can go, no. Yeah, so that's no fun. Yes, Daniel says, AOL. I miss collecting the CDs with all those hundreds of hours of dial-up internet. They made great coasters, or just, did anybody ever get in CD fights with, you could try to throw them, I guess, like a ninja star of some sort.
Stars. Yeah, exactly.
So, always fun. Well, the way I make money on this show is not through sponsorship. Why, kinda, right? It's patronage. We do have a couple affiliate links mixed in here, but through our awesome supporters, and you can be an awesome supporter by going to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And this is the sponsor part. The show is brought to you by the School of Podcasting.com, where we have courses, unlimited coaching, and community. And I got to tell you, the unlimited coaching thing has been so much fun recently, just a lot of fun. Use the coupon code COACH and realize that if you sign up and you don't like it, you can get a 30-day money-back guarantee. And I am seeing now people are loving the quarterly option. It used to be sign up, it was either monthly or yearly. And they're like, yearly was like, that's a chunk of change, even though I get a discount. And now there's a not as big a discount, but a bit of a discount on the quarterly. And people are just eating that up. So there you go. For all of you that are trying to sell things, maybe give a middle option, and they'll jump on that. We also use, if you go to Ask the Podcast Coach, that is Podpage. Some fun things. Keep your ears peeled. Some more fun things coming out in Podpage very soon. But you can try Podpage at trypodpage.com. I thought it was brilliant last night. It made me proud to be a part of the Podpage team. Somebody in Facebook last night said, hey, I'm looking for a WordPress theme made for podcasts. And like literally there were like 6 answers there. 4 of them said, I just use Podpage. And I was like, yes, excellent. That is my favorite answer. But also we use Ecamm to stream. So if you want to check out Ecamm live, go to askthepodcastcoach.com/Ecamm. And if you need more Jim Cullison, and hey, who doesn't? Look at him. Today he actually matches his artwork. How fun is that? Both got the green on there. Check him out at theaverageguy.tv and his home, Gadget Geeks show. And it's now time for the supporter of the week, where we go to I need to have my reverb button, the wheel of names. And so here we go. Will it be, again, it could be our newest patron, Randy, over at Shooting It Straight podcast. Where did that go? If I hit the back button, there it is. shootingitstraightpodcast.com. Thank you, Randall, for being a new patron. Or it could be Ralph there at Grit and Growth. I almost messed up his name. He'd kill me. gritandgrowthbusiness.com. The ladies at Flame Alive. Who's it going to be? Dave, just spin the wheel, would you? And it goes round and round. Makes fun little noise. And, ooh, yes, the one and only Ed Sullivan.
He'll be super happy to hear that.
From Sonic Cupcake. Why is that?
He's kind of a low profile guy. I mean, he's a, Ed's a good friend, and he supports you because it's the right thing to do. But he's like, I don't need all the advertising. I'm just, he's retired. I'm good. So Ed, congratulations.
Congratulations. We're sending more people. Yeah. Sonic Cupcake, great editor and a great guy. Yeah. So with that, if you are thinking, hey, I'm watching this show now. And did we save you some time? Did we save you some money? Maybe saved you some headaches? Maybe we kept you educated? Well, then you can be an awesome supporter by simply going to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. So thank you to everyone who's over there. I'm hoping by next week, what I want to do, because we have people over there that are $5 and $10 supporters, and they're not on the wheel. And what I want to do is make a screen of all the supporters and with like me and Jim's head in the upper right-hand corners and just all their names. So while we're going, Jim, what's coming up on Home Gadget Geeks?
Oh, that's a good idea.
And I was like, yeah,
that's a good idea.
And I went to do this weekend and decided to sleep in instead, which is silly. But yeah,
I like it a lot.
But that'll be coming in the future.
That's a YouTuber thing, by the way. The YouTubers do that.
It is.
They scroll there at the end.
I forget. It might have been Tom Buck that I saw doing that, and I was like, I'm going to borrow that idea. I like it.
Very effective.
Yeah, always fun. The other thing, let me scroll up here. Oh, if you haven't seen it yet, the podcast marketing trend report, that's not the official name, podcast marketing trends. That is, I actually had it right. By Jeremy Enns, great guy. And they had 300 people, 311 if we're going to be specific. And they shared their numbers. And they were like, hey, here's what it is. And they broke it down. It's really detailed. And as much as I say don't compare yourself to others, this is not a bad way to compare yourself to others, because realize the Pygmy Pony podcast is never going to get the same as, Hey, We're All Fat show or something like that, where there's just
the Pygmy Pony podcast is super interesting for some reason.
That's right. And has a hot blonde in a bikini, and it's a video show. You never know.
Or it's really interesting. I mean, it could be really interesting.
But one of the things he says here is the median show at the start of the year had 428 downloads. Now, median means 50% get less and 50% get more. And then at the end of the year, they had 516 downloads per episode. That's a growth of 21%. And so if somebody said, hey, I can grow your show by 20%, you'd be like, amazing, great. My question is, are people going to be happy with, like, if I started the year with 428 and I end with 516, is the average podcaster going to be happy with that? And I was like, I'm not sure, because we're all, I was listening to Pat Flynn's book, and he calls it because Pat is so into Back to the Future, and he calls it the DeLorean experiment. He's like, okay, hop in the car. Great. We're going to do 88 miles an hour. It's now a year into the future, and you now have 4,000 downloads. Okay. Tell me what your life looks like now. Like what's different? And he said he had a guy that said his goal for his business was to make $1 million. I want to hit $1 million in revenue with my business. And Pat said, great. How has your life changed now that you have $1 million? And he said, in most cases, your life doesn't change. It's really not, it's a thing. It's called, his book, by the way, Lean Learning, how to achieve more by learning less. I'm up to chapter 2, and it's kind of fun because I know Pat. He's a super nice guy, and it's just like having a 4-hour-long podcast. You know, really good stuff. I do need, and the other thing that's cool is I think it might be Lean, I'm guessing, leanlearningbook.com, but he actually gives you a bunch of stuff with the book because, of course, that gets your email address, and now he can market to you, which is great marketing in it. But I thought it was cool because he's like, hey, I'm looking at a graph right now, and if you're listening to this book, you can't see it. So he did a really good job. He's like, in the upper left-hand corner, it's this, and in the bottom left-hand corner, Jeff says, that's such a great book. Pat spoke about it at Craft and Commerce. So yeah, it's what's really weird is I saw a picture of Pat's kid, and the last time I saw him, he was like little mini me in a suit next to Pat, and now the kid's like 13 and a teenager and huge. And I went, how did that happen? But I just wonder sometimes if, and I'm going to do an episode about this. I've threatened it before, and I tell you I'm going to do it. But what makes your show a valid show? When somebody says, well, you're just a podcaster. Well, no, that's a valid show. My answer is, in the too long didn't read, when it delivers value, that's when your show is, legit versus the show that just wastes your time. But I think a lot of people are stuck on my show is only valid if I have a sponsor. I think that's why most people talk about sponsors, because even in this, let me find it in this report, it was something like 30% of podcasters. So here, 44% say they're doing it to grow an existing business, 27% to monetize directly or build a business around it, 22% fun hobby or a passion project, and 6% are other, which I wonder what other is, because you're either doing it for fun or you're doing it for fun or money. Maybe you're doing it to practice your English or, Spanish or whatever language your presentation skills. I guess that would be another reason that's not really monetized and it's not a hobby and a passion project. You're doing it to practice speaking. So, but that's thank you, Jim. Leanlearningbook.com. Yeah. So, and everybody is obsessed, apparently, because I made a joke. Snoop Dogg and Striper are going out on tour now with Taylor Swift opening. Yeah, that'd be fun. Hey, Striper still sounds amazing. So,
yeah, a bunch of old guys. Did you see on Pat's book? He has if you can buy 1,000 copies, it's for $30,000, and you get a 1-day intensive learning workshop in person in San Diego. It includes travel, hotel accommodations, includes breakfast, coffee, lunch, and dinner, and includes lots of conversations about life, business, and more. And he's only doing 3 of those. It's down, scroll down all the way. He's got some, talk about, Pat's be really creative on this, right? You can get the audiobook, but you can also buy, he's got a single copy for 30, he's got 2 for 58. He's got and he's got titles for each one of them. Then you scroll down, Focus Master, right? 10 books for $290, and then the Elite Learner, $30,000. Like, I wonder if he's gotten anybody to do that.
I could see doing that for a company, a big company, something like that. Yeah, but I know, I don't know where it was, but I know he hit the New York Times bestseller list with this book.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So
yeah.
But
there's a whole method to that, right? I mean, in the book Circles, there's a whole formula for hitting those. Hitting that. You really do put your, you put your book out there and you go hard for a couple weeks to try and hit that and then capture it. It drops pretty fast after that, but just interesting to parlay that book into a whole bunch of different stuff for him. He's really good at that.
Well, that's a guy that, in the same way that if Daniel J. Lewis puts out something, I'm probably going to buy it. If it's remotely something I could use, I'll buy it, because Daniel doesn't put out crap. And I've loved every one of Pat's books, and it's always, he always makes me think. He's a great guy of mixing in stories to, kind of keep things fun. And so, Steve says that is marketing genius. Yeah. That's also, in some cases, if you ever wonder why you get to an event and there's a book in the bag, that's somebody just trying to drive up. They'd be like, hey, how much is the sponsorship? Like, okay, just buy X amount of copies of my book. And that's them. And then you pay them X amount of money for the books plus the sponsorship. It's a way to, Prince did that in many, many, many moons ago. Put a CD in the newspaper. Like every person in the Minneapolis Gazette or something did a thing where they got a free CD. And the reason for that was, well, what do you know? It got on the charts. So there you go. Chrissy says from Creating Great Grooming Dogs, also a member of the School of Podcasting. Great exercise. My show is a passion project that provides valuable education for dog groomers. Not so much the doggies, but the dog groomers, trainers, owners, and other dogs. It helps me make money by building interest in my classes. Yep, that's it. That's where most people, to me, and again, I always sound very anti-ad. I'm like, it's just not the most profitable way to make money with a podcast. The easiest way is to sell your own stuff, like Chrissy's classes. So, Rich says Pat's Unstuck newsletter is great too. I'll have to check that out. I used to listen to Smart Passive Income, and I love Pat. But there was this part where he just started interviewing his customers. And I was like, I don't know if you think I don't know this, but this is a commercial. Like, it's very slightly, but it was like, it wasn't. I always liked Pat when it was a solo show and he was just sharing something like that. And so I haven't unsubscribed, but I'm not a regular listener like I used to be. He's probably fine again because he doesn't put out crap. But some other fun things here in this report. Audio, video, or both? Well, everybody's doing video. That's what we hear. And according to this, 49 or 48% were audio only, 1.3 are video only, and 49.8 are audio and video. So it's
I'd love to see the merch numbers broken down by those, like for those who sell merch. Mm-hmm. Does video sell more merch than audio because of the component, merch is
I would
visible,
think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see that breakdown to see, can you, if you're an audio only, can you still sell and provide merch without them seeing it? A lot of the YouTubers I watch are wearing their own merch, right? Or doing it that way. And if it's clothes or hats or whatever, those kinds of things. Yeah, I'd love to see a breakdown. I wonder if there's a difference. Yeah,
he does have a breakdown of the type of person. He says for the business model, 33, actually might as well make it 34% are a coach and consultant, 15% are freelance, 13% are agencies, 7% are digital product sales. Nonprofits, audience funded is 2%. And then, but there's nothing in here about, at least that I saw, was merch. But most of the people in the thing, it's kind of you almost need to see this rather than read it, because he has like a breakdown. The average years of experience here is 3.8, which is up 8.6 from 2024. So that's who's filling out the survey. But he has all these little, what do you call that thing at the bottom where it, not a key, it's something that explains what the colors are. So as you're looking at a legend, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah. So it's definitely worth, a look at. Like I said, when I looked at it, he does and it takes him forever to put this together. So, Jeremy, thank you for doing this. But the median 469 downloads an episode and 1,246 a month, and so lots of graphs. He also talks about how in some cases we have less listeners than we did last year. So that's always kind of interesting. But he explains that, and this makes sense, if I start a YouTube channel, like right now, I don't know where I'm going to listen to Kevin Michael Schmidlin because he's an audio guy, was what I used to listen to. And he, even in his last episode, he's like, I am all in, I am on YouTube. And so there's a part of me that goes, well, okay, I guess I'll just watch him on my TV on my lunch when I'm watching YouTube. Because what happens is you end up, whatever you're in, whether I'm in my Pocket Cast or if I'm on YouTube, there's going to be that time when I go, oh, I already listened to this. Oh, I already watched this. So I will kill one of those. And so if I kill the audio version, your downloads just went down. So yes, you're gaining more audience over on YouTube. Congratulations. But you also lost some downloads on audio because I don't need you twice. So that could be, something where we see downloads are going down. Well, yeah, because everybody and their brother is like, oh, you got to be on YouTube. You have to. Otherwise, the YouTube police will knock on your door and take you away. But always fun. If you have a question, we got about 10 minutes left. You can jump in, askthepodcastcoach.com/question. And I'm looking for one here. Oh,
Ralph dropped one earlier.
Oh, I missed it. Let me run back and get it. Or if you just want to read it, if you see it.
It's got a queue. Let me see if I can find it again. Roll up to it. Oh, shoot. It's about if you were going to spend money advertising, would you spend it on audio only or video or both? Something along those lines.
Oh, good question. Well, it depends on what I'm promoting. If I'm promoting an audio podcast, I would advertise. Yeah, here it is. If you were going to spend money advertising, yeah. So if I was, again, kind of, if I'm promoting a video, like for me, promoting my audio podcast, the best thing to do is go to where people listen to audio podcasts because we know they listen versus, I almost went to downtown Akron last night. They always have a live act and downtown kind of comes alive and just pass out Akron podcast business cards because I have an Akron podcast. And I didn't, of course, because, well, that would require me getting out of my chair. And but if I handed out 100 business cards with a QR code that says click here to, watch the show, I don't know how many of those people actually listen to podcasts. Whereas if I advertise on a podcast app like Overcast or Spotify or, there are a bunch of those now that you can do that. Then I know at least they listen to podcasts. Whereas if I'm advertising in YouTube, I'll have to go in and look. I started advertising my channel on YouTube with a very small budget because that thing can get out of control. And I also specified only in the U.S. Like I don't need people from Persia watching the School of nothing against people in Persia, but I was like, okay, let's keep it, UK, Canada, Australia, etc. So I don't know, Jim, what say you? Where would you put your advertising dollars?
Oh, it's a good question. I think it depends on the genre and what you're doing and the kind of content you're making and creating, and maybe a little, audience acquisition. Where do they reside? Right. That's the really key question. Is not the mode. Where are the customers? Where do they?
Yeah.
I think there's probably a little research needs to be done that says, hey, my target is here, and I think you got to go spend the money there if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah. Well, this ties in with a question from Reddit. It says, I host a podcast that is an original format, and I think it's generally entertaining. Each episode has a successful writer talking about the stuff they've written that never made it, abandoned scripts, rejected pitches, ideas that they love but couldn't get made. Actors then perform clips of these scripts, and we chat about what happened. It's called the Offcuts Drawer. So it's, stories that never made it from writers. I'm like, okay. So I'll give them credit. That's definitely different. We had 3 national press reviews in the UK. Again, how many of those people, listen to podcasts? All relatively positive. Writers who come on love it because you're promoting their stuff. Sure, why wouldn't they? Listeners who find it tend to stay, but finding those listeners is the problem. That really is kind of Ralph's question, because the way you grow your audience is find people that should be listening/watching your show, but they're not. And he said, I do regular social media. That really, I don't say it doesn't work, but again, it's a trickle. So audiograms, quotes, writers and cast photos, links to episodes, the usual stuff. but I'm not up for totally restructuring the show to just create algorithm-friendly video content. Well, I guess what, kids? If you watch YouTubers that are saying this is how you succeed, you write things for the algorithm, and that's what gets you views. That's what I keep hearing. And then the hard part is, okay, like I can go into vidIQ and say, show me outliers in this genre. Also look at my competition, and we'll go here. The fun part is, great. That's an episode about topic F. And you're like, I don't really want to talk about topic F. Well, if you want to be popular, that's what, according to all the data. So that's kind of the tricky part. I did create a few TikTok videos on the advice of my son, but there's no actual footage to add. And I don't know if I'm choosing the right sort of clips. Ask your son, or even if it's worth it. Right now, I'm hearing that a lot of younger kids are leaving TikTok because, of course, you guessed it, too many ads for the TikTok shops. Everybody got a TikTok shop, and now nobody's giving content, and it's just, buy my stuff. Hi, welcome to my channel. Buy my stuff. Look at it. It's stuff. You should buy it. And he says, and yet I see more basic podcasts, no shade, just straight interview formats, pulling in bigger audiences, which means you're looking at the competition. I know mine is niche, mostly writers and writing fans, but I think it's also got a broader appeal. Okay. You think? I don't know about that. Hey, everybody loves to hear stories about writers that had failed scripts. If I go to a party, that's all anybody's talking about. I'm not sure about the broader appeal on that. It's kind of like Desert Island Discs with failed writing instead of music. Have you ever heard of Desert Island Discs, Jim? No, me neither. No. So for anyone who's managed to grow a niche podcast audience, what's actually worked for you? Is there anything I haven't tried that's worth doing? Most of the stuff that you haven't tried, you should try. That's because it's not a one size fits all. Bearing in mind each episode with that format is already a big job for one person. So creating additional content is something I'm hoping to avoid. I don't think it's the content. I'm assuming his show is good. He's just got to find the audience that likes that stuff. And so it's, this is where I go, I know it's not a 10,000 download switch, but if nothing else, tell your audience to share it with a friend. I did notice this the last week, and I don't know if I biased myself against it, but I think I acted the way I normally would. Anytime somebody in my family or friends said, check out this old Kiss video, or have you seen this, or whatever it was, I clicked on every one of those links because it came from a trusted source. So I definitely see where if somebody honestly said, hey, I just listened to this episode and I think you'll get something out of it, I would listen to that. I get that a lot. Mark Johansson, not a lot, but on occasion. And that's the key. It's not a lot. When Mark Johansson goes, oh, dude, check out 22 minutes, 36 seconds, and here's a link. I know there's something good. So if nothing else, always telling your audience to share it with a friend and do that slowly, specifically, confidently, things like that. That is, that will help. It's, again, not a 10,000 download switch. Might get you that, 20%, maybe not. I don't know. But it really is a matter of figuring out who is my audience specifically, and the more specific, the better. Where are they? And then go to where they are and make friends and tell them about your show. But it's when you can't go there, that's where the advertising comes in. So it's not just advertising on podcasts, so that's one that should work. I've never tried that, although I've done it I used Buzzsprout ads, and I advertised on a show that was for entrepreneurs, and it did not do well. Now, that either A, I had the wrong show, B, my promo sucked, or C, the page I sent them to was awful. There's a lot of variables there that you don't know. And so I should probably see if there are any podcasts about podcasting and try to advertise on their show, which in theory, they probably will not, because they will see me as competition, et cetera, unless they really want that $14. But That's the fun part. Any kind of advertising. I just had a thing in Pod News, and I'll have to go in and look because James does a great job of showing you how many clicks you had and things of that nature. But it's always kind of tricky anytime you're doing advertising. So with that, I will hit the green button and ask you, Jim, what's coming up on Home Gadget Geeks?
Yeah, Dave Hamilton from Mac Geek Gab joins me. He's got 1,095 podcasts out on that show. Isn't that crazy? They've been doing it 20 years. They're over 20 years. And so anyways, join me. Huge nerd, big gadget guy. We answer some Mac questions and we dive into guess what, robot lawnmowers, solar generators, and how do you sustain a podcast for a long period of time? I asked him that question at the very end. So for this audience, well, listen to it. You might like it. You can catch it right now, homegadgetgeeks.com.
Yeah, I disagree. Ralph says I asked because there's zero discoverability on the audio side. Well, there's good pods, but again, my discoverability comes from my friends. Word of mouth is discoverability, and it's more powerful, I think, than you might also like at the bottom of a page. It's just hard to trigger that. So, but I get it. There's no algorithm and blah, 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 and et cetera, et cetera. So on the School of Podcasting, it just dawned on me. It's question of the month time, and I asked my audience, what percentage of your audience listens to on Spotify? Because we hear that they're the bee's knees, to quote my grandmother, and so we're going to find that out. Also, quickly, Spotify, hey, look, if you go on, on us, bring your video over here. Look at all these people that have grown. Oh, we kind of forgot to say we gave them $5,000 in advertising money to promote their show. Oopsie. Oh, did we not say? Oh, yeah. So it's Spotify being Spotify once again. So they'll be talking about that. I'm probably going to review this, the Hollyland Mark II lav mic, or I'll be talking about how to podcast and stay married at the same time. It depends on how much response we got from the question of the month. But we will see you next week with another episode of Ask the Podcast Coach.